What's up, Spikes? We're back in the studio again today to bring you another set review. Today, we're going over all the Commander set product, including the legendaries from the main set. Joining me, as always, is my good friend Elliot. Say hi, Elliot.
Hi, Elliot.
And Aaron, how you doing today?
Not bad, yourself?
Oh, living the dream. So we're going to get into it right away. No breaks, because we got lots of cards to cover today. And we're going to start off with just a few commons and uncommons that we thought were pretty cool. So Elliot, tell us about your choice.
My choice was Haywire Might. It is a 1 colorless artifact creature insect. It's a 1/1, and it says when Haywire Might dies, you gain 2 life. Green, sacrifice Haywire Might, exile target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Reminds me of Quizali Pride Mage?
Yeah, and Cathar Commando, Caustic Caterpillar, all those guys, they just decided, it can just be cheaper and gain you 2 life.
The 2 life that is what sells me.
Yeah,
exiling, not a 2 life.
Yeah. I think the thing I like the most about it is being a 1 cost artifact. It can be searched up using Urza Saga.
It absolutely can.
Yeah.
Oh, Tringamage.
Tringamage. Yeah, I think this is good design. I think it's probably a little pushed. I don't know that this is quite something that I can ever see being bettered than, if that makes sense. I think you probably could have convinced me to say 1 and a green to sacrifice it, for example.
Right, well, that's the rate on all of them up until this point, right?
Right.
There is in theory, the downside of this one does specify non-creature artifact or enchantment, but I don't think that's a real argument.
Yeah. I would say
Exiling such a huge upside, it doesn't matter. Exiling is insane.
Exiling is insane too, yeah.
So let's talk about your pick, Aaron.
Oh, my pick. Defabricates. Defabricate is a 1 and a blue instant. Choose 1, counter target artifact or enchantment spell. If it was countered this way, exile it instead of putting it through its owner's graveyard. Or counter target triggered or activated ability. Like I mentioned previously, the exile upside of the bug is very strong, and it's just as strong as it is here, with maybe more like a CDH implications than I would have given credit for originally.
Yeah. I think especially having the stifle effect as an option there turns off a lot of win conditions, a lot more than you'd think. And frankly, artifacts and enchantments is Breach, it's Bolas Citadel, it's all sorts of
LED.
stuff.
The fact that this hits specifically, the 2 big ones I think are LED or Breach, and then exiles them so that they can't be Sabine's wrecked or whatever, right? Like, I think, and then just the modality with stifling as well.
Yeah.
I think this is the most playable CEDH stifle.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's got
Quote
enough.
me.
Elliot DeWick. Anyway, let's talk about my pick. It's Meticulous Excavation. It's 1 white for an enchantment that reads 2 and a white. Return target permanent you control to its owner's hand. If it has Unearth, instead exile it and then return that card to its owner's hand. Activate only during your turn. I really like this because it allows Strict Boros to do Dockside Loops, which makes Aurelia's Fury a CEDH card. You heard it here first. No, that's a lie. But actually, I really do like this tech. Mono white, playing around a little bit more with ways to save its own stuff, especially in repeatable fashion. And I really like the incidental Unearth synergy here. There's a couple things in the main set that are very good that have Unearth, and being able to reset that Unearth using this is just fun.
Yeah, I think the fair side of this card is neat. Like you're mentioning, this Unearth clause has never been on anything as far as I'm aware. Like, that's a cool angle. But also, for some reason, this is a 1 mana enchantment that just bounces Dockside and lets you go boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
That's...
Big fan of boop, 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 boop.
Me too.
All right. Well, let's get into the new cards from the Commander set that aren't the legendaries. So first off, this set is all in old borders. So if you're looking for all that delicious, delicious old border, can't really read it stuff, boy howdy are these Commander decks for you. First off, let's talk about Scholar of New Horizons. It's 1 and a white for a creature human scout, a 1/1 that says, Scholar of the New Horizons enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. Tap it and remove a counter from a permanent you control. Search your library for a Plains card, reveal it, and if an opponent controls more lands than you may put that card onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't, put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand, then shuffle.
They just keep giving white this kind of effect, right? The classic, if your opponents have more lands than you can catch up kind of a thing.
Land tax, but not quite.
Right. And this one's weird because I could see it being cool in some kind of saga deck, because you can remove the whatever they're called, lore counters or whatever, right? To do a saga thing multiple times and either ramp or just like tutor to your hand or whatever. It is planes card, not basic planes. Also may be relevant.
Yeah, maybe especially relevant.
I'm sure it's relevant.
Yeah, that seems good. Next up, let's talk about Glint Raker. It's 3 and a blue for a Drake creature with flying, 1/3. Glint Raker gets +X/+0, where X is the highest mana value among artifacts you control. Whenever Glint Raker deals combat damage to a player, you may reveal that many cards from the top of your library. Put an artifact card revealed this way into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So that's a lot. So this just seems like one of those artifact synergy beaters, right?
Yeah, I like the card. It gives you some amount of payoff for having, I guess, big CMC artifacts. Typically, it's the decks I play. I play a lot of smaller things. You kind of cantrip and loop for some amount of value. But this thing, gives you payoff. Darksteel Forge. All of a sudden, I'm getting +9/+0.
That's not Magical Christmas Land at all. I do kind of like the art, especially like the sort of dragon overseeing its horde of glowy nonsense there.
I like glowy nonsense.
Yeah.
If there's one thing you know about me, it's that I like
glowy nonsense. All right, speaking of glowy nonsense, we've got March of Progress, 2 and a blue for a sorcery. That says, choose target artifact creature you control. For each creature token chosen this way, create a token that's a copy of it with overload for 6 and a blue. So instead of target artifact creature we control, it's all target artifact creatures we control. I can talk, don't worry about it. I think this is okay. It's basically just a non-card clone.
Yeah. I like it, again, obviously in some kind of go wide artifact strategy, because you can like copy, I don't know, Meteor Golem or something like that, right? Like it kind of seems to go hand in hand with this Glint Raker, right? Like you want to be playing big, impactful artifacts. You don't want to be copying Haywire Might with March of Progress.
Right.
There might be a few big impactful artifact creatures in this set. We're going to get to in a minute. in a bit.
Interesting.
Really? Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Come on, pal.
Maybe.
The thing I like least about this is that its color identity is blue instead of white, because it cannot go in an Alibu deck, which is
tragic.
where I think this would really shine in my mentality, but obviously...
You like Boros decks or something?
No, I've never heard of them. Next up is Terrasaries.
Terraciers?
That guy. Devastation, X2, black, for a sorcery with you lose X life and create X tapped Power Stone tokens. Then all creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn for each artifact you control, which, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I think this card's neat. They did a lot in this set with the like X can be 0 on these, like effectively kind of making them modal spells or whatever, right? Like they scale if you want to, but at its, I guess, base level or whatever, right? This is 2 black, potentially minus whatever for just the artifacts you control already.
Yeah. I would say, I imagine this starts at Languish and gets better from there, and Languish is already pretty good. Languish being 2 black for -4/-4, if I remember correctly.
I believe so.
Anyway, I'm sure it's up there, and if I'm wrong, oh well. The thing I like about this is it takes advantage of the Power Stone tokens that we've got throughout the set, which are the tokens that tap to add colorless, but the mana can only be spent to cast non-artifact spell, or sorry, can't be used to cast non-artifact spells. So you can do anything else except cast a non-artifact spell. I don't know, Aaron, do you really see yourself playing this in non-artifact based decks?
Oh, no. Without having a deck built around it to some degree, if you only have 1 or 2 mana rocks lying around, this card's value is abysmal at best.
Yeah. Next up, we're going to talk about Wire Surgeons. It's 4 black for a human artificer 6/5 with fear. The old keyword saying that you can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or black creatures. Good thing no one has artifact creatures this set. Each artifact creature card in your graveyard has Encore. Its Encore cost is equal to its mana cost. Encore being create a token copy for each opponent that you control. They gain haste, tax this turn enable, and then sacrifice them to beginning next end step on sorcery speed. I think this is okay.
It's very reminiscent to the like really big enchantment from Baldur's Gate that gives all of your creatures Myriad.
Ooh, yeah.
They like made Myriad cards, they made Encore cards, and then they're like, hey, what if like everything though?
Yeah.
Yeah, the card's super cool. Like I think pre Brothers War, it's harder to find, I guess, as big artifact creatures you want to Myriad beyond being like Solemn Simulacrum just for generic value. But again, things we'll get to later. This card gets considerably better within its own pool of cards, which is great.
Yeah. I think specifically as the precon's going to come, it's going to do a lot of work. I would go so far as to say this probably isn't going to be a perennial staple in really any deck.
No.
But it's really good niche tech. Speaking of niche tech, let's talk about Wreck Hunter. Black for a human artificer, 2/2 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, choose target player. You create a tapped Power Stone token for each non-land card in that player's graveyard that was put there this turn from the battlefield.
People said this was Black Dockside Extortionist.
They might be
a little off.
I think that's a little aggressive. Personally, I don't think this is bad. I think it's got, again, niche tech, but I don't know what we're going to be looking for going forward with these Power Stones.
What are you doing with the Power Stones?
Exactly.
Is the question.
Because it doesn't seem like they're that bad, especially if you're in a heavy artifact synergy deck, if you're really trying to lean into that, like we said earlier. There is tech for it now.
Yeah.
That being said, I just don't see it having the broad appeal of something like Dockside.
Yeah, it's maybe a little too niche. You can't just play this, like Dockside, you can just play Dockside and everything. This card isn't quite that. Without having the payoff for something to do with the tokens, it's a trinket text.
Yeah, it's also like, in theory, supposed to be used like in response to somebody else's board wipe or something, I guess, right? But even in that case, it's targeting a single player.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, oh, player C board wipes and I flash this in and get 12 or something, right? Because everybody's creatures died. It's like, oh, I get 4 because you're the one with the most creatures or something. So, yeah.
Next up, let's talk about Blast Furnace Hellkite. At 7 red for a dragon 5/5 with Artifact Offering, meaning you may cast the spell as though it had flash by sacrificing an artifact and paying the difference in mana cost between this and the sacrificed artifact. Flying, double strike, and creatures attacking your opponents have double strike. Sacrifice Meteor Golem, 2/2 red, all the things on your opponent's board have double strike because they're killing your opponent now.
I mean, even in a world where you're not sacrificing a 7-cost artifact, I think this card is really fair. I think this card is really cool.
Yeah, sure.
They've been slapping kind of red into this corner of like anti-group hug or whatever, right?
Goad.
It's like, goad all of your things, and then, hey, when you attack my opponents, like Crown of Doom is, I guess, an artifact or whatever, right? But like this goes great with that.
It's a very, it's getting kind of late kind of card.
Yeah. This will make people die.
Yeah, I appreciate the art on this one especially, although Dominguez really did a great job evoking what it would look like to have a dragon come out of deep flame, like just the fire running along the tail, the way it's just roaring up into the skies. Honestly, that's exactly what I would picture with this kind of effect hitting a battlefield. Everybody just going, oh, all right, I got to go home soon.
Yeah.
Like shifts over. Next up, let's talk about Hexavus. 6 mana for an artifact creature construct, 0/0 with flying, and Hexavus enters the battlefield with 6 1/1 counters on it. 1 and remove a counter from Hexavus. Put a flying counter on another target creature. 1 and remove a counter from another target creature you control. Put a 1/1 counter on Hexavus. I like this.
Speak to that.
Oh, sure. I like this a lot because you can actually put the flying counters on opponent stuff. It allows you to move things around. It's an interesting piece. It allows you to be involved in the game without necessarily having to have a bunch of stuff in your hand. It allows you to take up mana and use other resources that you've had throughout all the other creatures that are coming in and adjust things on the fly. It allows you to both be active on other people's turns without necessarily stopping what they're doing.
Yeah, fair. I like that we now have Pentavus and Hexavus. I'm hoping to go like all the way, like 1 to 9 or something. You know?
Septivus and Octavus.
Yeah,
there you go. What's Octavus do? Stuff. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I wish it moved +1/+1 counters, not just only granted flying counters.
Yeah, I think it gets maybe a little nutty if it does that, because as soon as you get like one hardened scales effect in there, the thing just goes. Any case, let's talk about Machine God's Effigy. Talking about some art. Look at that. 4 mana for an artifact that says, you may have Machine God's Effigy enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield except it's an artifact, and it has tap to add blue, and has tap to add blue. Another mana rock that does stuff. It's like Cursed Mirror, but longer.
Yeah, this one's the way that it's worded specifically is, so this one is in the Mishra deck, or Mishra. I think Shivam gave some people crap for saying Mishra, so I don't want to do that. I think it's Mishra.
Yeah, it's Mishra.
Anyway,
Yeah.
you can have it just enter the battlefield as 4 mana, tap to add a blue, and then when you use Mishra's ability to copy it, you can then have it enter as anything when you're copying it, as opposed to having it enter as a copy of something and then only being able to copy that thing that it enters as.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why it's kind of worded that way, I guess.
Also,
I don't hate it.
I just realized except it's an artifact rather than an artifact in addition to its other types, means it's not a creature.
Yeah.
So it's not like Curse.
Oh yeah, I missed that part.
So actually, this turns somebody else's creature or one of your own creatures into a non-creature artifact, which might have some protection tech to it, depending on what you're working
Probably
with.
harder to remove.
Yeah.
I think this goes infinite with Devoted Druid. I'm sorry. It does, but that's the...
Oh, the card's finally playable.
Oh, thank
Perfect.
goodness.
We figured
We've
it
got
out.
16 ways to break it now.
That was
so
enough. That was enough.
Moving on, Scavenged Brawler, 6 mana for an artifact creature construct, 4/4 with Flying, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, 5 mana, and exile it from your graveyard. Choose target creature. Put 4/1/1 counters, a Flying counter, a Vigilance counter, a Trample counter, and a Lifelink counter on that creature. Activate only as a sorcery. Wow.
I'm excited for this card in my Mimeoplasm deck.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where else this necessarily lives, but 5 mana to give something all of those things is like never bad.
I actually think this is sort of an ideal side piece in a Voltron deck. You don't
Sure.
care if it gets discarded. You don't care if it gets milled. You actually want it in the graveyard. You play it to the board and make people choose whether they want to block it or not.
You can play it in any kind of Skullbriar.
Yeah.
Oh, Skullbriar.
Ooh, Skullbriar is very good.
Ozlith deck.
Yeah. I say
Jim, shout out.
don't tell Jim about this one. But yeah, no, I think especially getting all of those different things, Flying, Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink basically
That's a lot
says
of abilities.
you have to start blocking me, otherwise I'm going to get out of control. But it also says if you block me, A, it's going to be tough, and B, all you're going to do is make my biggest creature otherwise even stronger.
Right, yeah. In theory, you're making something like so huge with this, right? Like,
Absolutely disgusting. Puts a great clock on the game. And it's versatile tech. I like the fact that as long as it ends up in your graveyard, you're doing something with it. So it really just shouts, path me or lose. Next up, let's talk about Smelting Vat. 4 mana for an artifact with 1 tap. Sacrifice another artifact. Reveal the top 8 cards of your library. Put up to 2 non-creature artifact cards with total mana value less than or equal to the sacrificed artifact's mana value from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Wow, that is a really good card that they changed away from converted mana cost for, because gosh lord, there's a lot of text on that.
Yeah. This one's, I mean, obviously the Mishra deck is leaning hard into this large non-creature artifact kind of synergies. The fact that it is always 8 cards, I think that's great.
Yep.
It's a lot.
And you like, you know, in theory, maybe you're only sacking like a 4 or a 5 mana artifact or something, but then you're getting a 2 and a 3 or 2 2s or whatever. And then again, we go to Magical Christmas Land where we sacrifice our Meteor Golem and we get, I don't know, a Steel Hellkite and a Soul Ring, or, oh no, wait, non-creature. Can't get the Steel Hellkite.
Yeah.
Tough.
Life can't get you everything, right?
Yeah.
I do like that it's revealing rather than just looking at the top 8 and just flinging them
That's
out
just
there.
good television.
Yeah, exactly, actually. Next up, we've got Thopter Shop, which is fun to say, Thopter Shop. 3 mana for an artifact with whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you control die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. 2 and a white for a tap. Create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying.
They keep adding this ability triggers only
Yeah.
once each turn to cards, and it's the Shaq meme, you know, whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you control die, draw a card. Activate only once per turn.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like this because it allows you to defend to get value, which you're probably going to want to be doing with your
Sure,
one-off
yeah,
flyers.
right. Like in theory, maybe you're drawing 3 cards, right? Like 1 on each opponent's turn or
And
whatever.
you can attack in, and maybe they block, and you draw a 4th card.
Yeah.
I think it's got enough value to be worthwhile in decks that care about flying men, for example. Especially if you're on mono artifact flying men. But again, outside of artifact synergy, I don't see a lot of places for this.
It's weird that it's white. Like Morbid Opportunists ended up being a better card than I would have ever thought it was going to be.
Right.
And this card is one-sided, well, very one-sided Morbid Opportunist that only that requires white. So
Yeah.
it goes in a lot of aristocrat type decks. You know, you can benefit from yourself sacrificing them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, only one-sided. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wish it had something more. I'm not sure what it'd have to have more, but I wish it had just something
I guess
more.
it draws it draws a card in white. So
Right.
we're getting picky at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Let's move on to Wondrous Crucible, 7-mana artifact with permanents you control have Ward 2. At the beginning of your end step, mill 2 cards, then exile a non-land card at random from your graveyard. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
I don't like this random stuff. It just is such a pain to like actually execute or resolve, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're trying to mill a lot of cards so that you have, or I guess maybe not. Maybe you're trying to have some very specific cards in your graveyard and then you mill 2 and it like ruins your whole plan or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they made this card very unbreakable, I think. You know, they made it 7 mana.
Yeah.
They made it mill 2 cards in your end step, and it's not. It's like one ability or whatever, right? You don't get like a chance to respond in between to make sure that you're exiling a certain thing.
You're doing it all just back to back to back.
I think the effect is big and flashy. I actually like it quite a bit. This card is very inconsistent, which creates for big stories, you know, and I think that's a lot of what Commander is for me, I suppose.
I understand the big stories point, but to me, where I come down on this is I'm somewhere in the middle. I like that it exists. I just don't think I want to play against it. This feels like arcane bombardment to a certain degree to me.
I knew you were going to bring it up. I know you hate that card.
Well, the reason I hate the card is that it creates game states that aren't intentional. You're not moving forward with anything that looks like I wanted to be doing this. It just happened to happen. And the more you do that, the more I think that you start getting into expectations or countering people's expectations than you intended to do when you built the deck. And so Wondrous Crucible, I could see a deck built around this effect that really is fun to play against, that is dynamic and has different expressions. But my concern is that it ends up just being, oh, we're going to spend the next 30 seconds to a minute to 90 seconds dirtling about trying to figure out what's going on.
Determining at random is a little tough.
Yeah.
It is at end of turn, so the turn you play it. I feel like this type of effect generally be in your upkeep or main phase.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the fact you get it the turn you play it is at least of some value.
Yeah, it's not a 7-mana do nothing. So
Relevant 7 mana artifact, you know? We have a lot of cards caring about big artifacts here, and they gave us another big artifact.
that's true. It is very large. Let's move on to the set booster exclusives. Let's talk about Disciple of Kalis Nin. It's 4 and a white for Human Wizard 3/4. When it enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player chooses up to 5 permanents they control. All permanents other than Disciple of Kalis Nin that weren't chosen this way phase out. Permanents can't phase in.
I think it's very good that this is on a creature.
Yes.
They gave it 4 toughness, you know, so it's not the easiest thing in the world to kill, but I think there will be a lot of people that complain about playing against this card.
I can see it being a gigantic pain in the butt, especially if you watch somebody across from you go to Fairy's Protection and then you do this. Because
That's just cruel.
oh, it's just cruel and unusual.
But it's funny.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
very funny.
My question for the two of you, I think we're all on the same page, is this is a really efficient stacks piece. What 5 permanents are you choosing? Are you going all lands or are you going all board state by the time this comes down on turn 7?
Well, the interesting thing is it doesn't choose itself.
Right.
So you get to pick 5 other permanents, and in theory, your 3 opponents pick 5, you get 6 because you get to keep the Disciple. So it's not like symmetrical, I guess.
You also pick first.
You do also pick first. Yeah, I think it's very, again, they put it on a creature. So in theory, maybe your opponent that's directly after you just like keeps 3 lands and then Anguish Unmakings this on your end step or whatever, right?
True.
Like maybe it does hard nothing.
Yeah.
I'm choosing lands.
Yeah.
It is weird that this. I feel like in this card, there's so many these big artifacts that destroy a lot of things. But this card, it feels weird they didn't choose non-land.
Yeah. I think they chose non-land because they wanted to preserve the fact that phasing seems to do everything no matter what.
Yeah.
But I do like that they're playing more with phasing. I think it's an effective way of getting a little bit of value out of stuff.
They seem to have shied away so much from destroying lands. That Not that this card doesn't destroy them, but
Yeah. Let's move on to The Brothers War. That's the name of the movie. 3 in a red for Saga that says, first chapter, create 2 tapped Power Stone tokens. Second chapter, choose 2 target players until your next turn. Each creature they control attacks the other player each combat, if able. Third chapter, The Brothers War deals X damage to any target and X damage to any other target, where X is the number of artifacts you control.
very flavorful.
Yeah, very flavorful.
Super flavorful.
Yeah.
I find it weird they didn't give this one read ahead. They like just invented that, and then like this
Still in a
is,
story, Elliot.
I guess, right? But like,
I mean, that's like jumping in and being like, and then Urza killed Mishra. And like,
I guess,
Like-
I don't know. I think I like it more if it has read ahead, where you can just like choose chapter 2 or whatever, as opposed to having to do all 3.
Sure.
Obviously, the first one does make the third one inherently better by 2.
I
don't hate it.
I really like all these modes except for the first one, but I can see why it exists. Realistically, I actually think the third one has the potential with what we've got now with the treasures and the foods and the everything else to really bop people.
Yeah, this is almost certainly going in my game actions deck.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of why I wish it had read ahead, is because in the game actions deck, I just want to pick 3 and go blah, blah.
Yeah. I really like chapter 2 as well. I think that's a type of non-goading goad that is very fun and flavorful. I would like to see more effects like that in red, or maybe in red-white, where you specifically say the 2 of you have to just go at it.
Right, like Master Warcraft type
Exactly.
nonsense or whatever, right? Yeah. It's a very like defensive piece in that sense or whatever, right? Like it makes you 2 tokens, then next turn it's like, okay, you 2 can't attack me. In theory, I'm living another turn, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Next up, one of my favorite cards in the entire set. It's Sardine Avenger, 1 in a red for a Goblin Warrior, 1/1 with First Strike, with Trample, with whenever Sardine Avenger attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts your opponents control. And whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, Sardine Avenger deals 1 damage to that player. Get wrecked, treasures. I've been asking for this for a year. I'm glad we finally see it.
This card's a warrior for some reason.
Right?
So I guess, like this is a free Najeela card. Shout out to Pongo or whoever from Team Turn 3. Is this a Najeela card? Yeah, we were actually just talking about this on the ride here. The First Strike Trample, this thing's unkillable.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great Tymna attacker.
Yeah.
In theory, they can't go infinite with their dockside loop or whatever unless they kill this first, because they get limited by however much life they have because they're sacrificing the treasures. Like, what's not to love?
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say about a dockside loop is these are triggers, right?
Sure.
So you could stack it all on top of it, but that still is a kind of a limiting factor depending on what kind of ability you're going for. Aaron, how do you feel about it? Out of 10.
You guys like it a lot more than I do.
Oh, yeah? where do you got this out of 10?
I don't know. Like I do like that there seems to be direct nods to cards that interact with treasures or punish players for having treasures. That this won't be the first one we talk about, or won't be the last one we talk about. Sorry. Again, the card has a lot of text. It seems to have a ton of upside. Be really good against the Brothers War Saga we talked about previously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess like my wheelhouse is a little more casual, and this seems like that'd be fine. But I don't know, being an X1, maybe a little too fragile. Again, it seems to do a lot. Maybe have probably more implications in CDH than it does in traditional or regular Commander. So yeah, I'm not as high on it.
That's fair. That's fair. I guess the thing that I like about it is the +X/+0 is all opponents on all opponents.
Yeah, that's
boards.
huge.
Like, because I think even in casual, that's going to be a minimum +3/+0 almost.
Yeah, no, for sure. That part is great. It's not that it doesn't pick on the one player, which maybe it should, but the fact that it buffs for everybody is that part's great.
Yeah. And not only that, but this is the kind of card that I really want to jam into, like, say, my Aurelia casual deck, because we're going to go boop, and then we're going to go boop for even bigger.
Yeah, multiple combats makes this card way better.
Yeah,
I love multiple combat steps, baby.
Yeah, it's real good. Let's talk about Root Path Purifier, 3 and a green for an Elf Druid 3/4 with lands you control and land cards in your library are basic.
So there's a lot of people freaking out about this card.
A lot of
Yeah, I was one of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's really good.
I think it is very good. Do I think I'm going to alter any of my current decks to be like, ooh, I'm gonna put this in, and then when it's in play, I can Evolving Wilds for my Gaia's Cradle? Probably not.
Okay.
But I mean, it makes a cool story, right? Like,
It does,
I
for
think
sure.
I think this card is like a really good, what I don't remember the psychographs, Timmy card? Johnny is combo, right? Johnny
combo.
Jenny is combo. Yeah, so this is
Good
like
card.
this is going to do cool things.
I think the thing that speaks to me the most about this is how it works with stuff like land tax.
Oh.
Yeah, just tutor up your 3 best lands. Like go get Thespian Stage, Dark Depths, and Maze of Ith.
Yeah, again, maybe I'm the spikier spike or whatever, right? I'm thinking 5 mana, 2 cards, like I'm just tutoring like Urborg, Coffers, whatever. Like
Sure.
I'm not super jazzed about that.
I think it provides tech in land-based strategies that is very good. And I think it's the kind of thing that I almost wish this was a legendary creature, because I think if you could build around this effect,
It'd be a lot cooler. I
it'd
think.
be a lot cooler.
Actually, a really good point.
I really don't know how to feel about this thing. Like people were kind of skies falling this card pretty fast, but I think in like competitive, like Elliot was saying, I think it's too slow. You're not going to build your deck around having this creature all the time to go find my rapid growth, Gaze Cradle nonsense. But then in casual, the other side, it again, people don't really play Thespian, Dark Depths, Gaze Cradle, that kind of stuff either. So it does do things like you've mentioned, and specifically land strategy. But outside of that, you're not going to change your Naya deck just to, I have this one card, so I'm going to go out of my way to play all these techie cards, or maybe make my mana base, or play less basics because of this one card. You can't argue that its ability isn't powerful, but it being maybe 4 mana, it makes it fall kind of in the middle of both sides of the coin, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how I feel about it.
I feel like if this was green for a 1/1, I think I might like it a lot more.
Then I think this card's absurd.
Yeah, if it costs, I mean, even like 2 and a green, like, and is a 2/2 or something, like we're getting like, obviously they
Shaving a mana off each time will make it exponentially better.
Exactly. I feel like kind of expertly qualified to talk about this card because I play a Umori the Collector creatures only elf deck.
Right.
This would be a great way, like I could change it in theory, put this card in, maybe find some more ways to tutor elves to the battlefield or whatever, and play explicitly like Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, and then they go find my Gaia's Cradle in this only creature deck. But again, I think it's a little narrow.
You don't want to play this in your 5-color Blood Moon effect deck just to make sure that you have non-parity on your Blood Moon effects.
That's
Just
cute too.
salt in the wound.
Yeah, just Salt in the Moon, exactly. Let's move on to Staff of Titania. 2 mana for an artifact equipment with equip 3, and equipped creature gets +X/+X, where the X is the number of forests you control. And whenever equipped creature attacks, create a 1/1 green forest dryad land creature token. Wow, that's a mouthful. I think this is pretty cool and goes great with Yavimaya.
Definitely. It's also not the only card in the set that makes Dryad Arbor tokens, which I think is cute. Again, I feel pretty qualified to talk about this card because I play a singular creature Grun the Lonely King Voltron deck, and this is like almost perfect. +X/+X for forests. I'm a mono green deck. It makes Grun absolutely huge, but it makes forest dryad creatures. And Grun is the Lonely King. He can't have friends. They ruined it. They ruined my boy. It was almost perfect.
Well, I think the thing I like about this is it's not Sword of the Animist, and it's also not Blackblade Reforged.
Sure.
It's a little bit of both.
It's like Blanchwood Armor.
Exactly.
I
like
also in the set.
I also got to just shout out here real quick. I think the art on this is extremely evocative. Everything's very vivid. I like the way it's put together. Frankly, I think Samuel did a great job making it look like a weapon of like relic status, where it's basically just what looks like to be like a gnarled, I don't know, maybe mandrake, mangrove, the trees that are like up in the water.
Sure.
Anyway, Jim will find a picture of it. But anyway, I just think it looks good. Last but not least for the set exclusives, let's talk about Urza's Workshop, which is a land Urzas for tap, add a colorless, and Metalcraft. Tap, add a colors for each Urza's land you control. Activate only if you control 3 or more artifacts.
Perfect. No notes.
Yeah, just really good.
Yep.
It's kind of awkward because it's not modern legal.
True. I don't know that modern Tron really needed this type of effect though, right? Like in modern Tron, you just go find another tower or whatever, right? That taps for 3 more. But in Commander, now I can have 4 Urza's Voltron pieces, and then I make
5.
Saga. Urza's Saga is an Urza's land.
This actually comes up a lot at the store, is our Urza land's worth playing in colorless decks. And I'm super on board, you know? Again, I want big stories and even bigger stories.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby. No
More of a
notes.
reason to play.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we all know why you came here, and that's for us to talk about the legendaries, so we're going to get into the things that can be your commanders out of this set. But first, I want to take a brief moment to ask you to leave a comment, a like, and if you haven't yet, take a time to subscribe. We do this hard work for you folks, and if you like it, hit that like button, leave us a comment telling us what your favorite card is, and we'll give you a thumbs up. Anyway, let's get into it with Ashnod, Flesh Mechanist. Mechanist? Flesh Mechanist. Black. That's it. For a 1/1 human artificer with death touch. And whenever Ashnod, Flesh Mechanist, attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, create a tapped Power Stone token. 5. Exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a tapped 3/3 colorless zombie artifact creature token.
This one's kooky.
Yeah.
It's a 1-mana 1/1. Cool. That's neat. The Power Stones that she makes for sacrificing the creatures can be used for her ability to make the creatures.
You attacking with your commander that's a 1/1 with death touch very often? Yeah, me neither.
Well, I don't know. There's they've printed a lot of these Mardu aristocrat type cards that start bleeding into artifacts
Yeah.
specifically. So maybe there's kind of a home for this. As a commander, it seems kind of lackluster. It might be a card I might play in the 99, but
Like in Jan Jansen, maybe?
yeah, I actually played that deck yesterday.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And again, this is certainly not a card I probably want at the helm, but is a card I would maybe consider. It's maybe just a little
Cute.
too cute.
Yeah. Next up, let's talk about Ashnod, the Uncaring 2 blue, black, red legendary creature human artificer from the commander set. 1/4 with death touch that says, whenever you activate an ability of an artifact creature that isn't a mana ability, if one or more permanents were sacrificed to activate it, you may copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So
It's a combo with the other Ashnod. Easy. We just need 6 mana in our Grixis deck and we're off to the races.
well, the 6 mana will be extremely easy with those Power Stone to. Oh, wait, never mind. This is fun. I like things that copy things. I think it might be a little too narrow with the have to only get it if you sacrifice something for it, right?
I'm trying to think of a card that stands out.
Yeah.
This feels very, very thematic to Ashnod, but I can't think of a card
Yeah.
because it can't be Ashnod's Altar.
Yeah, they specified isn't a mana ability, which is super funny because Ashnod's
Right.
Altar obviously
That's
adds 2 mana. Sack a thing, add 4 mana would be great.
Yes, it would.
But they deliberately made it so you can't do that.
But yeah, I just don't know enough about what activated abilities I want to use that
Can't be
aren't
Birthing
those.
Pod.
Yeah. Because specifically the 1 or more permanents were sacrificed to activate, it means it almost certainly has to be a treasure, or it has to have the text sacrifice a creature.
Oh, there's a big artifact. They played
Yeah.
one top 8 cards we talked about earlier.
Oh, right. Hey.
Let's go, I remember things.
Good job.
But otherwise,
Yeah.
it's pretty corner. There's probably something obvious we're forgetting,
Yeah.
but
But like, for example, it doesn't do anything with Aetherflux Reservoir.
yeah,
Yeah.
this card at least is interesting and worth more of a build around card than the first Ashnod. So
Yeah, true. I mean, it doubles your food tokens.
It's in Grixis, right? So you could play maybe there's some kind of eggs deck where you're doubling things. You get the spell
Citadel?
bombs or whatever.
Actually,
even
Ooh,
Bull Citadel.
double
Nice.
the Bola Citadel, tap 10 permanents or whatever.
That card needed the help.
clues.
Clues draw 2 cards, sure.
I don't think that's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, there's probably something cute going on here. I'm sure
Probably.
somebody that really likes Ashnod is going to make a really sweet deck with this.
For sure.
I am not that person.
Yeah, me neither. Moving on, let's talk about Drafna, founder of Latnam. 1 and a blue for a human artificer advisor 2/1 with 1 and a blue. Return target artifact you control to its owner's hand. 3 and tap for copy target artifact spell you control. The copy becomes a token. I think this is pretty neat. I think copying artifact spells for a little bit more makes a lot of sense, and it allows you to bounce it back so you can keep doing it over and over.
It feeds
Yeah,
itself.
feeds itself exactly. It's like play this thing, bounce it, play it again, copy it, bounce it, play it again, copy it.
Yeah.
Again, probably not a thing you're finding at the helm of a deck necessarily, because then you're shoehorning yourself into mono blue. But
realistically, I can maybe think of a few different lines that might be able to win if we get some artifacts that deal damage or do some controlled style stuff.
Okay, I've got it. You
Yeah.
are a blue-red deck, and
Yep.
you play Mycosynth Lattice and Dockside Extortionist.
Ooh, hey, we broke Dockside Extortionist. Good job, everybody. All right, let's move on to Farid, Enterprising Salvager, 2 and a red for a human soldier, 3/3. Whenever a non-token artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a colorless artifact token named Scrap. 1 and a red, sacrifice an artifact. Choose 1. Put a 1/1 counter on Farid. It gains menace until end of turn. Goad target creature or discard a card, then draw a card. That tripping your trigger, Aaron?
It has a lot of text. I don't know if I want any of it. Again, it does fit into this the Mardu artifacts.
Yeah,
But all three of these are like the looting effect isn't bad. I like goading a lot, but I don't know what this is doing for me.
I think the fact that it has to be 1 and a red and a sacrifice on top of it, even though that you're pretty consistently getting a free artifact when you do sacrifice other things, it's almost good to do in, say, its own shell if you really wanted to go full Voltron for the +1/+1 and menace.
Right, like I guess maybe you're attacking people with this thing, but then I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, it's another commander deck card, so you'll get that in the commander deck, but nowhere else. Next up, let's talk about Felden, Ronum Excavator, 1 and a red for a human artificer, 2/2 with haste. He can't block. Whenever Felden is dealt damage, exile that many cards from the top of your library. Choose 1 of them until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. I think that this is interesting because it really disincentivizes your opponents from blocking, because it basically says draw a card. That said,
He's a 2/2.
he's a 2/2 with haste.
He's just gonna die.
He's just gonna die.
It's good at Pyrohemia.
Ooh.
Caltrops.
Ooh. See,
It'd be an
we,
enraged strategies.
we got a thinker over here.
I'll
pal.
say, put it in your dinosaur deck.
I thought it was sick with Blasphemous Act.
Yeah.
And then it's only you only play one, choose one of them.
Right, you look at the, you exile the top 13.
It's still like
but
okay.
then- yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
if you can give it indestructible.
Yeah. It's not that hard to do.
Maybe, yeah, I can see it. But I just it doesn't.
The effect seems powerful, but
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going to fit it in.
Yeah. Let's move on to Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor. 1 black for a Phyrexian Praetor, 3/3. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. 4 black, discard X cards. Exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. So it's basically, what's his name? Golos, but for your opponent's decks.
Kind of, yeah. You have to discard X cards.
And pay 7.
7 mana is a lot of mana.
Golos was 7, wasn't he?
Golos is 5 colorless, and then I don't remember what his active.
I thought it was
I thought it was Wooburg.
2
It's
Wooburg.
Wooburg 2 or Wooburg 3. It's probably Wooburg 2.
Okay, so yeah, it is like 7.
So don't get me wrong, the discarding cards is a thing, but if you've got a mitt full of 7, all of a sudden now you get 7 things.
Yeah,
And it Timna's your opponent. Your opponent get this Timna ability, right?
Yeah.
That part's less good.
But you also get the Timna ability.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, this card has a lot of text. You know, that's cool. it's a cool creature that you know that's been in this Magic Sword for a long time. But
What if it was like, whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, you and its controller,
yeah, I'm in for that.
you know,
Yeah.
like it's just a little on the not
7
exciting side.
Well,
for
but
me.
also for 3, right? I think that's part of it.
Sure, the creature itself is 3 mana, 3/3. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can get much more aggressive than that. Let's move on to Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, 2 and a green for a legendary creature, Elf Druid Scout, 2/3. Tap to add 2 mana and any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activated abilities of a creature or creature card. Whenever you cast a creature, or activate abilities of a creature or creature card. That's
Isn't that
strange,
both?
isn't it?
Isn't that the same thing?
Evoke?
Maybe.
Maybe it is a...
Yeah, no, that is what it is. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, and untap it. But yeah, no, it's got to be stuff like Evoke and things like that.
This card's cool.
Yeah, I like this quite a bit.
Again, probably not your commander because it's 6 in mono green. This is a good Naya guys deck.
Yeah, the fact that it's
fun.
like, make something 2 cheaper. If you cast a 5-cost creature, it untaps it, makes another thing 2 cheaper, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I like...
Super into this card.
Yeah, I like, in theory, like niche, really strong 3 mana dorks, you know?
Seems fine. Let's go to Hajar, Loyal Bodyguard, red and a green. For sacrifice him. Legendary creatures you control get 1/1 and gain indestructible until end of turn on a 3/3 body. So a 2-mana 3/3 isn't bad.
Yeah, this goes in your legendary tribal deck or whatever, right?
Yep.
Like, not irrelevant that this can be tutored in theory at instant speed by like the 5-color Sisay.
Yeah.
In response to a board wipe or whatever, give all of your legends indestructible.
And pump them.
Yeah, that's like about where I see that though.
Well, the text is relevant in your deck. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just protects your commander for a turn. But
Yeah. I got to say, I really like the art on this one. Those pauldrons are exactly my aesthetic.
the ceiling on the card's super high.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that if there's one thing I know about Alex, it's that he likes dudes that look like this and playing dudes that look like this.
Show me the lie. If I could actually have just Space Marines, but
He's got 2 flaming swords. That's the most Alex thing I've ever seen.
I could do without the flames. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, why are they on the back? They should be on the front. Anyway, let's move on to Harbin. Vanguard Aviator, white and a blue for a human soldier 3/2 with flying. Whenever you attack with 5 or more soldiers, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain flying until end of turn. Interesting to see so much of Yotia be soldiers in Azorius.
Yeah, shout out again to Shivam. I know he's pissed that all of the soldier tech in this set is white-blue.
Yeah.
And he's like...
Is that bad?
It's just not white.
He's a
red.
white-red soldier kind of guy, you know? Tajik and...
Yeah. More Boros-y. I
Sure.
actually think this is a good, what I would call introductory commander.
Sure.
It's easy to build around. It pays you off for doing something very simple, and that progresses the game. It doesn't cause you to dirtle.
I think this is a great...
Two mana 3/2 flyer.
Exactly. 2 mana 3/2 flyer that pumps your board and gives them flying. Like you're obviously just like a white-blue soldiers deck. Like, this seems great.
Yeah, it seems very, very good.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that they put out what I would call budget build-arounds, because if you're going to put together a deck for Harbin, what are you spending on it? $60 tops?
Yeah, right. Like your raise the alarms and your whatevers are not.
The body seems really pushed.
Yeah.
It's 2 mana 3/2 flyer. Like,
That's great. Let's talk about Hercule, Master Wizard, 1 blue for a legendary creature, human wizard advisor, 2/4. At the beginning of your end step, if you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. For each card type among non-creature spells you've cast this turn, you may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So let's break that down real quick. At the beginning of your end step, I've cast something that isn't a creature.
Sure, an artifact.
I look at the top 5 cards. I can pull an artifact, an enchantment, an instant, and a sorcery, and maybe a planeswalker, if I hit all 5 of those.
If you have
Played it.
this turn.
Yes, if I've cast it this turn.
Yeah.
She's weird.
Most people, I'm not a boomer like you guys, so I didn't know necessarily, because I didn't read the lore, that Ashnod was a lady. Also didn't know that Hercule was a lady. Glad to see it.
I didn't know that.
I found that out.
Congratulations.
I found that out like 4 cards ago when we were talking about Drafna, and it's
Yeah.
like alongside his wife,
Oh.
Hercule. Yeah,
Hercule a lady too. Great.
that's all. That's when I found that out. So anyway, I think that this is a cute card that I expect to never actually see play.
Oh yeah.
You think so?
It's got a lot of text again.
It's got the lot of text problem without a lot of effect.
Yeah, I'm trying to read it and like understand exactly the implication of it again.
It's a weird one again, because if you are wanting to build around this effect, in theory you're putting her in the command zone, and then you're a mono blue deck trying to cast different types of like different spell types or whatever, right? Like you're trying to cast
mono artifacts, mono.
I was gonna say like in a world where I was gonna say Emery, if you're playing a fair Emery deck, that this card's fine, but Emery and that this doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But if I'm playing, a deck where let's say I'm playing a high density of artifacts, I cast an artifact to I get to essentially draw another one at the end of the turn. It seems okay. Maybe in Spellslinger, you get to rebuy an instant. You have to be a pretty high density of whatever card type it is, because I think going the one of each and is trying to get max value, that's probably the wrong way to do it. I don't know where it fits into, but it does have the ability. I had to read the ability 4 times. Like
I still don't think I get it.
it looks at 5, but
Yeah, it's hard to parse. Let's move on to Kayla's Music Box, a 2-mana legendary artifact. White, tap. Look at the top card of your library, then exile it face down. Tap. Until end of turn, you may play cards you own, exiled with Kayla's Music Box.
This is another one. I don't know why they made it white. Seems like a neat, like weird card advantage thing if you made it just colorless, or
the creature reference is white, correct?
Yeah, Kayla is
White red?
No, Yeah, she might be white-red, but Krug generally is white.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
my understanding.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, I think it's just sad.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how sad she looks.
This card's just really slow.
It's very slow. It is another one of those technically card advantage in white, but this is definitely worse than the Thopter shop or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, I'm way less in for this.
Yeah,
I wish you had the option to exile it. Because I don't really want to like invest. I don't want to exile this card that might be important to me.
you don't get to choose. You
Yeah.
just exile the card face down.
Yeah.
So like a card can get locked, and then it's really easy for them to interact with this while it's tapped and use
Right,
the
just
card
blow up
permanently.
the artifact
Yeah.
and you just...
I don't know who this card's for, to be honest.
Yeah, weird.
It's the sort of thing that you need a lot of pieces to make it work. Like, I suppose if you had like a top, for example.
I guess you could rebuy it and it keep track of the same cards.
Yeah.
But like again, it's
No, exiled with Kayla's music box means that if it leaves the back, even if it just flickers,
it's a different killer.
it breaks.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't like that.
Stock kick counters.
Yeah, anyway, that's in the commander decks. Let's talk about Liberator, Urza's Battle Thopter. That's a 3-mana legendary artifact creature Thopter with flying, flash, and you may cast colorless spells and artifact spells as if they had flash. And whenever you cast a spell, the amount of mana spent to cast that spell is greater than Liberator, Urza's Battle Copter's power. Put a 1/1 counter on Liberator. It's a 1/2, baby.
Alex
weird.
feels a certain way about this card.
That's weird.
I feel a certain way about this card. I don't understand why they were like, Shimmer Mirror is cool, but let's make it 1 less mana and affect all colorless spells, not just artifacts.
Shimmer Mirror, same mana.
No, Shimmer Mirror is 4, I'm pretty sure. It is 3?
You know,
Okay,
we'll,
sure.
we'll put it on screen. And
Yeah, I
something
might be
like
wrong.
I hope I'm right.
that. Comment below who was right.
But yeah, like, it affects all colorless spells, and then you're obviously casting big spells because a lot of the, again, artifacts or Eldrazi
Ooh, yeah.
are
All of dust.
huge. All this dust. Yeah.
Instant speed, all this time.
Yeah, like this card's nuts.
Yeah, this card's cool.
All I can say is I can't look at it and read the name Liberator, Urza's Battle Thopter without thinking that.
They did be naming it Liberator, huh?
Liberator, Urza's Battle Thopter. Just wow. Anyway, let's talk about Lauren, Disciple of History, which does not evoke any thoughts in my head whatsoever, other than that it's a human artificer 3/3 with. Whenever Lauren, Disciple of History, or another legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand, and that's a 3 and a white for Lauren. Interesting.
This card's like a really medium Teshar.
Yeah.
Really slow.
Really slow, medium Teshar. Well, it's also uncommon, so
Yeah, no, that's
yeah, you can't really see it getting super pushed.
Yeah, this card's probably okay. Like, I don't know.
Again,
Very
maybe
medium.
if you're deliberately building a potentially lower on the power level kind of side of things, and you really like Loran, Disciple
I
of
kind of
History.
wish it was 3 mana.
Sure.
I mean, maybe mono white legendary artifacts in Artisan, maybe.
Okay. Sure.
Sure. Anyway, let's talk about the good one. Lauren of the Third Path,
Yeah.
2 and a white for a human artificer, 2/1 vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment and tap. You and target opponent each draw a card.
This card feels extremely white.
Yeah. Perfect. No notes.
I say I really like you and target opponent each draw a card. That's great tech for, that's a real cute Thassa's Oracle you've got there. It'd be a real shame if oops. So I like that. I like the ETB destroy. I like a vigilant 2/1 for 3.
Yeah, right. This is just
card's
white vigilance Rex Sage with upside.
Very well rounded. Like,
Yeah,
And
crazy.
I gotta say, you and target opponent is much more palatable than something like what's the Secret Rendezvous at sorcery speed?
Sure.
Because this you can do right before your
Yeah, you get to control it more.
Yeah.
yeah. So next up, let's talk about Mishra, claimed by Gix. 2 black-red for a Phyrexian human artificer. Whenever you attack, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of attacking creatures. If Mishra, claimed by Gix, and a creature named Phyrexian Dragon Engine are attacking and you both own and control them, exile them, then meld them into Mishra, lost to Phyrexia. It enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. This is a 3/5 that does all those things. So the relevant piece of this one is whenever you attack, each opponent loses X life and you gain less life, where X is the number of attacking creatures. I think that's pretty good for black-red.
Yeah. If you're a black-red kind of go-wide deck, maybe you play both of these because you're melding them. Maybe Mishra is your commander, and you're, again, some kind of black-red go-wide deck, and you're, whatever this effect is called, hell ridering people from the command zone.
I like the effect. It doesn't. There's another one of these that they just printed. Warhammer, the black white one. I can't remember the name of, but I like being it spreads the damage. You know, I can go really really wide all in one person and it gets everybody all at once, which is nice. But 4 mana 3/5 maybe a tad slow, but
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think I'm. First of all, I dislike meld cards. I don't like them. I think they're
so silly.
That's the part.
They're so big.
Yeah, that's the part I don't like about them. But anyway, I think it's fine. Let's talk about the commander deck version, which is Mishra, Eminent One. 2 blue, black, red for a human artificer 5/4. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of target non-creature artifact you control, except its name is Mishra's Warform, and it's a 4/4 construct artifact creature in addition to its other types. It gains haste until end of turn, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. I think this is great.
Yeah. Again, it works with that Machine God's Effigy or whatever. This is the dude I was talking about that works with it. That it copies non-creature artifacts, so you can have the Effigy enter just as a 4 mana tap for a blue, but then every time you copy it, you can have it enter as a copy of something else. Also relevant, because it gives things the name Mishra's Warform, it doesn't matter if the non-creature artifact you're copying is legendary.
2 Bolas Citadels.
Interesting.
2 Bolas of Citadels.
Yeah, no, that is pretty great. I do like that quite a bit. I think that it's a very flavorful Grixis setup. I can see that being a fairly popular commander if it wasn't in Old Border. I hate Old Border, don't at me. Next up, let's talk about another Mishra. Mishra, Excavation Prodigy, 2 and a red for an uncommon human artificer, 2/1 with haste, 1, tap it, discard a card to draw a card. Whenever you discard one or more cards, or one or more artifact cards, add red. This ability triggers only once each turn. Seems fine.
This ability triggers only once each turn. I sleep.
I mean, they've got to start not letting us do a better Noah combo every card that comes out.
I guess.
Yeah.
The only gripe I have about this one is this is, I guess obviously we'll have it up on the screen. This is obviously younger Mishra.
Yeah.
And there's a younger Urza that kind of does similar things in blue, and I think they should have had partner. They were friends when they were younger, right? They were brothers.
True. That is true.
And they didn't start fighting until they were older.
Well, here's the thing. While Urza read books like a nerd is the parenthetical there, Mishra learned to read the desert itself, which is cool because if you go read a desert, it'll be like sand. Anyway, let's move on to Mishra, Lost to Phyrexia. This is the melded card from Mishra and the dragon thing. And this says, whenever Mishra, Lost to Phyrexia, enters the battlefield or attacks, choose 3. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Mishra deals 3 damage to any target. Destroy target artifact or planeswalker. Creatures you control gain menace and trample until end of turn. Creatures you don't control get -1 until end of turn. Or create 2 tapped Power Stone tokens. I know which one I'm not picking most of the time on a 9/9 body. The interesting thing about this is, if I remember correctly from Mishra claimed by Gix, it enters the battlefield tapped and attacking when it comes in. So you're already going to be moved to attacks, and Mishra Lost to Phyrexia is going to come in sideways. So it's going to trigger from entering the battlefield, but it doesn't attack.
Yeah, right. So I guess when you attack with this, you get the Mishra claimed by Gix trigger as well, right?
Correct.
So it's like a big swing.
It's a big swing. Honestly,
and it's a big, cute, meldy nonsense thing.
Yeah. Aaron,
How do you not like this card? Look at this. That's so much text. That's so many abilities.
Okay.
How are you making this card?
Exactly.
Attacking with Mishra and the dragon. That's how you make it, Elliot.
Right. But that's the problem. I have to have both of those specific things.
Yeah, you got to work to have fun.
I don't want to work to have fun. I just want to have fun.
I'm having maximum fun.
Okay, Timmy. But the point is I have a question for you. What are your 3 picks off of this list of 6?
Whatever one is better, you know?
Yeah.
They're all pretty powerful.
I'm having so much fun, but I'm only
so much
picking the
fun.
optimal 3.
Yeah.
Asshole.
I'm making 2 Power Stone tokens 100%
yeah.
of the fun.
Oh, come on. No, I actually think especially the Lightning Bolt is really great, along with Menace and Trample.
The disenchant effect is good too.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of good stuff going for it. And I think this is another instance where I think they could have gotten a little bit cute and made this exclusively borderless because it's a meld card. I think seeing more of this art, specifically the way they've put it together with Chris Ron making this gigantic dragon maul.
Or even the see-through text box kind of a thing,
exactly.
right? With white text or something.
Yeah.
It could have been cooler.
Yeah, I guess in the deck where you're if you're playing the front side of Mishra, you're already going wide, giving your teams menace trample, getting blockers out of the way, destroying artifacts or planeswalkers. Actually, not artifacts and enchantments. I guess it'd be weird if we destroyed enchantments. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. It's a lot of work, but it looks cool as hell.
Yeah, let's go to our 5th Mishra card. Mishra, Tamer of Makfawa. 3 black, red for human artificer legendary creature. 4/4 with permanents you control have ward, sacrifice a permanent. Each artifact card in your graveyard has unearthed 1 black, red.
That has to be good.
That's gotta be good.
Yeah. Perfect. No notes.
I just think it's really good. I like that we have the dragon guy behind him, that he eventually like gets stuck into his head.
Well, he's the tamer of. You said that with so much confidence.
Makfawa?
Yeah, I don't even want to say it.
I mean, you try saying that a different way.
Nope.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, the card seems very powerful.
Yeah.
Again, it costs 5, but if it's on top with this card, I'm sure it does crazy things.
I especially like ward, sacrifice a permanent. I think that's an incredibly good way to make something like Grave Pact palatable.
Sure. Yeah. That like ward is almost always just hexproof anyway.
Yeah.
I think ward sacrifice a permanent is like the most hexproof you can be without being hexproof.
That's good stuff. Next up, let's go to one of my favorite cards in the set, Myrel, Shield of Argiv. 3 and a white for a human soldier, 3/4. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Whenever Myrel's Shield of Argive attacks, create X 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control.
Perfect.
Sick.
No notes. How many
big
times have I
round
said
of
that? Yeah.
A lot.
God. The thing I really appreciate about this is that it becomes geometric. As it attacks, it gets more of the thing that it's already making for you, so you just go up and up and up.
Yeah.
and up.
Right.
It's the kind of thing that I know for a fact that a lot of soldier stacks are going to want to jam right away. It's the first card that made me regret building creatureless go wide, because good lord, would this be good in a Assemble the Legion deck? But yeah, it's just fun. Next up, let's talk about Queen Kayla Bin Krug. 1 red, white for human noble, 2/3. 4 tap, discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards. You may choose an artifact or creature card with mana value 1 you discarded this way, then do the same for artifact or creature cards with mana values 2 and 3. Return those cards to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery.
Again, cool little build around thing.
Yep.
You're obviously going range of cool 1, 2, and 3 mana artifacts or creatures in Boros.
Yeah. I think that there's enough creatures and artifacts that doing this not only gets you to cycle through the cards in your hand, it also allows you to have a lot of value that red-white doesn't tend to get.
Sure.
And so I would be skeptical of how many legs this could have, but you could surely churn through a decent chunk of your library every game you play with this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This card too good if it can activate as an instant.
Ooh.
I hadn't thought about that.
Sorcery is a pretty big dagger.
Yeah. I think it might be, because one of the things that they try to avoid quite a bit is having people suddenly have more blockers, because that tends to make people really get paralyzed.
Resolving this ability takes
Yeah.
maybe a bit of time.
Yeah. So I think that might be the only reason that it's not allowed at instant speed.
I like it a lot, but the sorcery speed might be the reason why I don't play it.
Yeah, I can see that and understand it quite a bit. Now let's talk about Saheeli, who's back for another round with Filigree Master. 2 blue, red for a legendary Planeswalker Saheeli. +1, scry 1. You may tap an untapped artifact you control. If you do, draw a card. -2, create 2/1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. They gain haste until end of turn. -4, you get an emblem with artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. And artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Comes in with 3 loyalty. I think this is great, actually.
It's potentially powerful,
Yeah.
right? Again, obviously it enters with 3. You only have to plus it once, and then you can alt it.
Yeah.
It's very weird, though, right? Because the emblem is like 2 pretty different decks, I feel like. Like you're either, well, I guess not. Like only making them 1 less to cast makes a lot of like artifact creatures cost like 2 or 1 or 0 or whatever, right? And then they're also getting +1/+1. I guess this one can't be your commander anyway, but seems cool.
Easy to ultimate. I don't know what deck I'm fitting it into. Like is an artifact deck that has a high density of artifact creatures specifically. With Sans, what's the word I'm thinking of? The Mexalatus.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of another way that you really utilize it. Again, in ultimates, I'm sure you can ultimate it very, very easily. The turn you play it. But outside of that, even with that emblem, I don't know exactly what I'm fitting it into.
I think one of the things that we might be overlooking slightly with this is the scry 1 and then being able to choose whether or not you want to draw that card is actually a fair bit more powerful than I think we're giving it credit for. Yes, you do have to tap an untapped artifact you control, but you have the decision point on whether or not to do it.
Sure. Yeah, let me untap the artifact and I'm in.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's move on to Sandwell, Avenger Ace, 1 and a white for a human pilot 3/1 out of the commander decks. It has, as long as an artifact creature you control is attacking, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Sandwell Avenger Ace. Whenever Sandwell becomes tapped, exile the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a vehicle or artifact creature spell from among them, then put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's cute.
Yeah. Vehicle decks will play this.
Yep.
Yeah, hard to read.
Very hard to read.
Names hard to read.
Very hard to read. Let's move on to Tanos, Solemn Survivor, 1 and a blue for a human artificer, 1/3, 2 and tap to create a token that's a copy of up to 1 target artifact creature token, artifact token you control. Mill 2 cards. 1 white, blue, black, tap, sacrifice 2 artifact tokens. Exile an artifact or creature card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of the exiled card, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Activate only as a sorcery.
Create a token that's a copy of up to 1 target artifact token you control.
Correct. And mill 2 cards.
Yeah, right. So I guess you're some kind of Esper self-milled
Feldon?
deck.
Feldon.
Yeah.
The third path.
In red?
In your 4-color.
In your 4-color Brea deck? Yeah. This is weird.
Very weird.
I'm glad it's mythic. I'm glad it's in the commander decks, or at least in the non-standard product. I don't know what to say about it. I think it's interesting. I would really be interested to see what someone who has a lot more time and patience to figure out how to use it does with it. But especially specifying the tokens aspect on all these abilities, I think makes it a little bit tougher than we want it to be.
To buy like 2 mana to copy.
Yeah.
Like that is very cheap. That part seems good. You can do it as an instant. Great. Now, how we're getting the tokens into play in the first place might need a little bit of research.
Right. And so, like, for example, I think he goes really great with Drafna, if you remember, because he made the target artifact spells come in as tokens. But
Copies and artifacts.
yeah, it takes a lot to make it work. Let's move on to Tanos, the Toy Maker. 3 green-blue for a human artificer, 3/5. Whenever you cast a beast or bird creature spell, you may copy it, except the copy is an artifact in addition to its other types. That's
They like
interesting.
printing this kind of like the copy spell. They've done a lot of it lately.
Yeah.
But this is a great hey, we don't have a commander for Simic Birds.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Simic beasts. Yeah.
Simic birds and beasts. Heck yeah.
I actually think this is pretty good. It reminds me a lot of Volo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the card does almost the same thing.
Yeah. Let's move on to Teferi, Temporal Pilgrim, 3 blue for a Planeswalker Teferi. Comes in with 4 loyalty and has the static ability. Whenever you draw a card, put a loyalty counter on Teferi, Temporal Pilgrim. 0, draw a card. -2, create a 2/2 blue spirit creature token with vigilance. And whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. -12, target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to its owner's hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control into its owner's library. Oofa doofa. Target opponent really kind of cuts the legs off of that for commander, I think.
Yeah, I think
But,
this is a strong control card in,
Standard.
standard, historic, whatever.
Yeah. Maybe Super Friends with the draw card ability, but
Sure.
I don't think it's difficult to build a situation where you can ultimate this thing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it does just nerf one player.
yeah.
I think you need a lot out of Planeswalkers and Commanders specifically, and I don't know. This card probably puts a big target on your back.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to be the one opponent that you're choosing.
No.
But
Honestly, I think this is much better as a make a 2/2 blue spirit with a Neuromancer text,
yeah, probably.
but I don't know. It's interesting, I think, is where I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Archimandrite. 2 blue, red, white for a human advisor. 0/5. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, where X is the number of cards in your hand -4. Whenever you gain life, each advisor, artificer, and monk you control gains vigilance and gets +X+O until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gained. Tap 3 untapped advisors, artificers, and or monks you control. Draw a card. Now that is a tribal synergy pairing I did not expect.
Speaking of Commanders that don't have, or tribes that don't have Commander yet.
Yeah. Monks,
the
baby.
persistent petitioners needed the help. I need to tap.
Okay, so this I was going to mention persistent petitioners because this is very funny in a petitioners deck as beatdown petitioners.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna attack you.
Yeah. They get +X+O.
What's up?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
And in the person up before me's turn, I'd like to draw a bunch of cards, please. Thanks. I've got more
Exactly.
petitioners.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I like that they're playing around with this. This looks like it's from the set boosters,
Yeah.
rather than anywhere else. So that's an interesting
It looks
card.
like kind of a one trick, but it's cool that it exists.
I think the thing that I'm most interested about it is to see how people want to build the deck.
Yeah.
Because if there's a really cool way of expressing with monks, or like you said, with persistent petitioners, I'd like to see that. Send that to me in the comments of this YouTube video. Let's talk about the Mike Stone and the Weak Stone. 5 mana for a legendary artifact, Power Stone. But not the old Dreamcast game. When the Might Stone and the Weak Stone enters the battlefield, choose one, draw 2 cards, target creature gets -5 till end of turn, and tap, add colorless. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. So it's just a Power Stone.
It's a Power Stone, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's 2 Power Stones stapled together.
They're not stapled together. They're actually separate. You can tell by the art. Some of the
Shut
boxes.
up.
Okay, sure thing.
It's a colorless removal spell.
Yeah.
It is.
Maybe not the best rate,
No.
but it is a removal spell.
Yeah. It also
divination.
melds with Urza, Lord Protector. Are you excited about that?
I'm really excited to find out about all 7 or 12 or 14 Urzas that we're getting this set. It's interesting. I don't know that I'm going to play it other than to meld with
Specifically
Urza.
meld.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
let's be honest.
5 mana is too much.
It's
for
not a
either
great
of
rate
these
for any of
effects.
these abilities.
And I'm not melding, so I'm never going to play it. Let's talk about the Stasis Coffin. 3 mana for a legendary artifact. 2 tap, exile it. You gain protection from everything until your next turn. That's just goofy.
Very name fits.
Yeah, it's Teferi's protection in colorless, I guess, right? Like it costs 2 more and it doesn't
Well, at least you do.
phase out, but it
I can still mess with your permanents.
Yeah, it's weak. In my opinion.
It's weird.
5 mana is a lot.
Here's the thing. When this helps you, you're laughing all the way to the bank.
Sure.
Any other time, you're just,
It's like not that much mana. It buys you at least a turn. If you can recur it, like it's a really, but you look at it as a really inefficient fog.
Are you really
But you can like
riff-
buy it back over and over.
Are you riff sweeping for that?
Oh yeah, sorry, it is exile. That's a
It does
mistake.
exile it. So.
Yeah, I guess if I just went to the graveyard, they'll probably be actually really good.
Oh, if it went to the graveyard, this thing's busted.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
You can just cycle it over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I will not risk sweeper it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Stone Brain. 2 for a legendary artifact. 2 tap, exile it. Choose a card name. Search a target opponent's graveyard, hand, library for up to 4 cards with that name, and then exile that player shuffles, then draws a card for each card exiled from their hand. This way, activate only the sorcery. That's just extirpate, right?
Yeah, this is not.
It's a better version of those effects. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not for a commander, so I don't have very many.
Yeah, I actually was
feelings
going to
about
ask. Not having a ton of CDH on my belt, is there ever a world where this card is playable? It's like it's more tutorable because it's an artifact. It just like sitting around can be a threat. I don't know if just like there's some decks that Magda for
Yeah.
For
that
example.
like lean more heavily on one specific card. That, like, is there ever a world where this type of effect is good in CDH? Again, having
Potentially.
not a ton of experience.
Yeah, I think it is an expensive effect for, again, in Commander only exiling the one
Right.
copy of a thing. Like, I don't know how often people are playing Praetor's Grasp anymore in like black decks.
Exactly.
It's more of a
exiling
casual
the
card than like the
Yeah.
pick your things decks.
Yeah.
But
I guess the thing that it makes me leery of it specifically is that it doesn't allow for you to surprise them.
yeah, sorcery speed is definitely probably correct. Like to be
Yeah.
honest.
I
Yeah,
think-
again, if this was not sorcery speed and didn't exile itself, it's a whole different card,
Yeah.
right? A whole different ball game. You're like recurring this thing, exiling all 3 of your opponents' win cons and whatever. An interesting point about it before we do move on, in Modern and X and whatever, this can name basic lands.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
gross.
It is weird that you can look for 4 basics. out of the
Actually,
deck.
I think that might be interesting in something like Mono Red Prison, because now all of a sudden your Blood Moon looks
wish I could
really
name
good.
it. Search myself. This target opponent.
Tough.
I just draw cards, right? Because you draw cards, right? That-
Yeah, you would draw the cards and you would thin your deck of 4 whatevers, yeah?
Yeah,
Fair.
Maybe too cute.
maybe too cute. Let's talk about the Temporal Anchor. 3 blue for a legendary artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 2. Whenever you choose to put 1 or more cards on the bottom of your library while scrying, exile that many cards from the bottom of your library. During your upkeep, you may play cards exiled with the Temporal Anchor during your turn.
Just during your turn. So I have a question, because I actually have never asked. So I say scry 2. I put both of them on the bottom, then I exile those 2 cards, right?
Yep.
It's not, I put these 2 on the bottom, exile the other 2, then put them on the bottom or something tricky like that. It is exiling the cards that you are choosing to scry to the bottom.
Right. So anytime you look at a card at all, you always follow all the instructions from top to bottom.
Right.
So since Scry 2 involves choosing something, right? Scry 2 isn't done until all the actions are done.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's going on there. I think this is cute.
Yeah, it is a very expensive way to make scry like the red exile draw type
There's
thing.
that
Yep.
Elegith, the commander from the first Commander Legends that cares about scrying. There's 2 creatures actually that care about scrying in that set that I see partnered a lot. If you're specifically in that wheelhouse,
Yeah.
this card is sick.
Get your Thassa's God of the Deep or whatever. Scry one at the beginning of your upkeep. Anyway, let's move on to the melded Titania, Gaia Incarnate. Legendary creature, elemental avatar. Whew, here we go. Vigilance, reach, trample, haste, Titania, Gaia is incarnate. Power and toughness is each equal to the number of lands you control. When Gaia enters the battlefield, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. 3 and a green, put 4 1/1 counters on a target land you control. It becomes a 0/0 elemental creature token with haste. It's still a land.
Cool. Again, obviously, all of the melded cards look really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's because melding them is like impossible.
Yeah.
It's a little the cards are a little better quality than last time.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of reach.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reach. I like keyword soup on this.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
this card's huge,
It
right?
turns into a huge threat.
Yeah, it demands an answer, which is what you'd expect for something like this. But this basically just...
I'm less excited about this one.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, this looks like a 2-for-1 on legs. So
A little bit.
anyway, let's talk about Titania, Nature's Force, 4, green, elemental. You may play forest from your graveyard. Whenever a forest enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. Whenever an elemental you control dies, you may mill 3 cards on a 6/6 body. That's a callback to Planeswalker, Freyalis, isn't it? Or is it Titania?
Titania. Like
That is Titania?
the one that makes 5/3s?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first Titania makes 5/3s whenever a line you control
there
dies.
Anyway, I think that's really cool. This is from, I think, the Set Booster products. So, yeah, that's neat.
I dislike that Titania, and maybe they're doing it to play safe this time around, specifically plays forests and not any lands.
Right.
Because like first Titania was very good, obviously, especially for its time. So this one, now that they're even the equipment from earlier, again, it cared forests specifically and not lands. So maybe it's more thematic, but
I think it's supposed to be
Something
thematic
safer.
because if you look at the rest of the set,
Yeah.
Urza is like white, blue,
Black.
ish,
More white, blue.
more white, blue, and Mishra is blue, red, black, and there's just no green at all. So I think Titania is supposed to
Yeah.
be that aspect of it because
it makes sense.
There's a lot of mono green synergy stuff, a lot of forest synergy stuff in the main set. For
sure.
Any case, let's move on to the last Titania, Voice of Gaia. This is part of the meld. It's 1 green for an elemental with reach 3/4. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more land cards in your graveyard and you both own and control Titania, Voice of Gaia, and a land named Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, exile then meld them into the big Titania that we just talked about.
Yeah. So I think this one is probably the easiest.
Yes.
It's easiest to meld.
Yep.
Right? But like both, again, if I'm remembering the line correctly, both front sides are pretty medium.
Oh, yeah.
Like this card has, whenever a line you control dies gain 2 life, is virtually irrelevant.
Yeah.
So you're playing it only to meld. You're playing it only for the other side.
Argoth, Sanctum of Nature reads, enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary green creature. Ha 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 ha. Tap to add a green, 2 green. Tap to add 2 green, 2/2 green bear creature token. Wow. Then mill 3 cards, activate only as a sorcery. So that's how you get the land cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. In theory, they work together. But
Both sides leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah, super
so
medium.
You're playing 2 fairly medium cards, but independently aren't great. The transform side is cool, and like the first 2 cards obviously feed into it, but it's
again, yeah, even the melded side is like not super exciting. Again, maybe more in a commander view of things or whatever, right? Like just a big beater is not doing much necessarily.
it is, again, it doesn't come at a huge cost. You have to play 2 fairly suboptimal cards, which can come up at some point in casual games.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, not a huge risk. Rewards medium.
Yeah. Let's talk about Tokasia, Dig Site Mentor, 1 green, white, blue for a legendary creature, Human Artificer, 4/3 with creatures you control have Vigilance and Surveil 1, including this one. And you can pay 2 green, white, blue. Exile this creature from your graveyard. Return any number of target artifact cards with total mana value 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery.
This is another cute Bant eggs type card.
Yeah.
You're somehow, I guess, if this is your commander, you're somehow sacrificing it or getting it in your graveyard, and then, 8 mana is pretty trivial to make in some kind of eggs loop, and then you're returning 10 mana value worth of eggs that are, in theory, drawing you cards and making you more mana and whatever.
I think especially the combination of having vigilance and the ability to surveil one across multiple creatures makes this a fairly robust card. I think it might be just a smidge too expensive to see a lot of high-level play, but I could see some very interesting, explosive late-game turns in a more casual environment off of a deck built this way.
Like, you can just pull ban tokens. Like, you can just ignore the artifact side of this text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And the 4 mana 4/3 is a reasonable creature. It gives like, or it's a fine body. Gives like creatures vigilance, and they surveil, you know?
Yeah, card selection is great.
So again, like, I guess, yeah, you can just ignore the artifact part of this, but you can also build around it too.
Yep.
Which is kind of why I like it. It does cost an absurd amount of mana. It's flashback, or to get its secondary ability. But again, it isn't a nothing. So
Yeah.
Interesting card.
All right, welcome to the Urza's section. We're going to start with Urza, Chief Artificer. This is the face card from the Commander deck. It's 3 green, or that's not green, that's white, blue, black. For a human artificer, 4/5 affinity for artifact creatures, so it's cost less if you've got artifact creatures. And it says artifact creatures you control have menace. At the beginning of your end step, create a 0/0 colorless artifact construct creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So we're having Urza make Urza's constructs. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just obviously an Esper artifact creature deck.
Yeah.
You're just going really wide with artifact creatures, makes this guy cheap. In theory, you're never paying commander tax on this thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, he just costs Esper every time, hopefully. Notable, like you said, with the 7-drop thing, it does say at the beginning of your end step. So even the turn you cast him, he makes 1 or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
I think this is good. I think
Seems cool.
of all the artifact-based commanders I've seen so far, this one seems the most straightforward and the easiest to use.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's a super cool card. Like, you can probably play this thing really fast if you wanted to. It does play into this kind of more aggressive artifact deck. I like the fact that it's Urza. You know, it's exciting to play Magic for so long, admittedly, and then him to finally have a card, and I think the card's really, really, really interesting. So yeah, I'm probably excited to try this card at some points, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's probably a little more casual, but yeah.
It's also a little one note. I think this is...
It's pretty, yeah, well, I do this one thing.
It does this one thing, and I think based on what you choose to build around it, determines where it's going to land. I can see this actually getting fairly powerful, but I don't see it in like CDH land.
I don't think so.
Anyway, next up, Urza, Lord Protector, 1, white, blue for a human artificer, 2/4. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. 7. If you both own and control Urza, Lord Protector, and an artifact, name the Might Stone and the Weak Stone. Exile them, and then meld them into Urza Planeswalker. Activate only as a sorcery. Interesting.
So this is a 3 mana 2/4 that makes your spells cost less. This card's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's a 3 mana 2/4 Helm of Awakening or whatever, like one-sided is probably not irrelevant. It might see play just for that.
Yeah.
I doubt, unless again you are really excited about Urza Lord Protector and the melding and the lore on that side of things, I just can't see a reason to play the Might Stone and Weak Stone.
7 mana sorcery.
Yep.
It's really easy to get burned on. Like,
Yeah.
You investing your turn into it, you get unsummoned.
It happens all the time with the Nicol Bolas.
Yeah,
as well,
you pay
right?
4 to transform.
Yeah, you play the 4 mana Nicol Bolas, and then
7
you
to transform?
Yeah, it's 7 again. Actually, I think you
Yeah.
pay like 4 and Grixis, and then
Yeah.
again because of that little colon right there, you know, like
And then the Planeswalker's good, but
yeah, hit us with.
Well, let's talk about
Sure.
Planeswalker. It's Urza Planeswalker. Urza, Planeswalker.
Oh.
Legendary Planeswalker. Urza, you may activate the loyalty abilities of Urza Planeswalker twice each turn rather than only once. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast this turn cost 2 less to cast. You gain 2 life. +1. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. +0. Create 2 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens. -3. Exile target non-land permanent. -10. Artifacts and planeswalkers you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Destroy all non-land permanents. Starts 7. That's good.
so let's say I've spent my turn flipping
Yeah.
this thing. Spend 7, meld my things, I get this. It does give you a lot of options. It removes important permanents on the battlefield you need to do. It gives you blockers, can give you can draw you cards. The other ability, if you untap it, lets you have a pretty huge turn, reducing the cost of your spells by 2. And then its ultimate is powerful, but you need to get back to the turn, I suppose.
Yes.
Which is hard to, I think, extremely hard to do with Planeswalkers and Commander.
Compared to the Mishra one, I don't think this says I start winning the game instantly.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, is there a world where you pay 7 mana, hope this thing flips? You've already had to play the Might Stone and Weak Stone, so you're probably pretty sad.
Yeah.
Which helps pay for the...
Yeah.
Sure. You pay 7, you flip this thing, you just +2 it twice. It goes to 11 loyalty, and then they
4 life, and you cast like 4 cost artifacts for free.
or even in a world where you're not casting anything off of it, like you just put it to 11.
A
like,
ton of loyalty.
right?
Yeah.
It's 11.
That's a lot. I don't like it. I'm sorry, guys. I don't like meld cards.
Yeah.
I think this one I may be a little too pipe dream. Again, like Urza's a fine card to play, just as Urza. Meekstone, not a lot. And again, the investment to try to transform it is a huge risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next Urza. Urza, Power Stone Prodigy, 2 and a blue for a Human Artificer 1/3 with Vigilance. 1 tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you discard 1 or more artifact cards, create a tapped Power Stone token. This ability triggers only once each turn, just like the Mishra we talked about earlier.
Sleep.
Yeah.
But again, they are uncommons, so like, sure, I understand. But if they had partner,
Yes.
they're even, I'm pretty sure the art is
They do.
literally them working on the same
It is.
machine or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like, why do these not just have partner with each other?
I'm not sure how relevant it is. Like, obviously, both cards don't care if you discard it to their ability. It's if you discard them at all.
Yes.
So maybe there's a world that fits into something that, but even then, the once per turn obviously really kneecaps it. It is uncommon.
Yeah.
Well, how much really can you ask for?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's what I was about to bring up. Being uncommon, I don't think they can be that aggressive. The partner with thing, I could see that just for.
I'm
a
giving
flavor
them
perspective.
rule 0 partner with. You can tell Jim and Sheldon on me. I don't care.
Next up, let's talk about Urza, Prince of Krug, 2 white, blue for a Human Artificer. That is a 2/3. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. 6. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control, except it's a 1/1 soldier creature token in addition to its other types. That's interesting.
Goes good in the Urza deck.
Yep.
Yeah. This Urza goes really nice with the other Urza.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah.
I artifact creatures you control get +2/+2 is huge. Like that's
Sure.
That's really big.
Yeah, makes them big. It's whatever. Tempered steel. And then
It do be in tempered steel.
It do be being. And then, yeah, like, you're making... So it's interesting, again, kind of like the commander deck Mishra. It makes a token of any artifact, but turns it into a creature, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe you're turning your Spine of Ishsaw into a Meteor Golem, I guess, or whatever, right? But, yeah. Weird guy.
Definitely weird.
6 ain't cheap.
Let's talk about the last card for this video. It's Urza's Silex. It's a 3 mana legendary artifact, 2 white to exile it. Each player chooses 6 lands they control, destroy all other permanents, activate only as a sorcery. When it is put into exile from the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, search your library for a Planeswalker card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, and shuffle.
I never read the second part of this card. That's weird.
Yeah.
Sure that it does that. I guess thematically it makes sense. Storyline it makes sense.
Yeah.
Why do you save land? Why do you save 6 lands, cowards?
They
Yeah,
are saving 6 lands because they're cowards, that's all.
Yeah, exactly. This should just be Armageddon.
Yeah.
For 7 mana, like
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess the thing I see on it here is they're literally put that clause in because they don't want people to have a bad time.
Yeah, I don't want to.
literally
If it did that, I don't want to play against it. I don't want to play against Armageddon either.
Yeah. I also don't want to play
Coward.
against this, if I'm being honest.
Oh, big time coward. I play casual Magic.
Yeah. No, I don't want to play against this either. My expectation is this is something that gets put into decks for a short period of time. People play with it for a little bit of time, and then they go,
Oh, this not fun.
why don't I just play Wrath of God since I have to pay Wrath of God mana anyway?
I
Yeah.
have to look for a Planeswalker.
Sure.
You have to pay 9 to do this all in one turn. Probably not happening anyway or whatever, right? But you'd have to pay 9 or 6 when you put this into exile.
Yeah. No, it's going to be an interesting card for like maybe 6 months. What's up?
Okay.
What's up?
Okay. Are there any cloud shift effects that do non-creatures? Because it doesn't say when Urza's Silex is put into exile with its own effect. If we're like flickering it and paying like 1 mana to flicker it, 2 mana to put a Planeswalker into our hand.
That'd be a funny way to use this.
Right? Like maybe it's some kind of Super Friends tech or something, but it doesn't even save Planeswalkers. It's all other permanents. I don't know.
Wait, you could turn it. No, I was thinking you could turn it into a creature with the other Mishra,
Okay.
and then you Conjurer's Closet it at a turn.
Oh, baby.
This is a lot of cards to build look for a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Any case, folks, thanks so much for watching the first half of our set review. These were all the legendaries and commander deck / set booster exclusives. We'll have the main set, rares, and mythics coming out for you soon. In the meantime, Elliot, what was your favorite card today?
I mean, it's got to be Liberator, Urza's Battle Thopter.
Liberator, Urza's Battle Thopter. I'm going to go with Sardian Avenger because I love treasure. Hey, what about you, Aaron?
I think it's the face Urza card.
The face Urza.
I'm just excited that Urza has a card and that like it feels very thematic, which is great. Like a lot of these cards feel thematic, but yeah, I like the card a lot.
I like it too. Anyway, folks, if you've got a favorite card from this set, you can actually get it for yourself. That's right. All you have to do is go to facetofacegames.com and use the code SPIKEFEEDERS at the end to save yourself 5% off your order. You can get all these cards from them. They're going to ship them right to you anywhere in the world, but especially if you're in Canada, we got a good deal for you there. So go check that out. In the meantime, tell us what you're going to go grab from them. Leave a comment down below, like us, and if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do before you go to catch more of this. In the meantime, thanks so much.
Make a bell and hit it and ding.